"You are fired. Get out of my store right now." Sarah stood frozen at the cash register, her manager's harsh words echoing through the small convenience store. Just minutes ago, she had let an elderly man who was counting pennies skip his $5 payment for basic groceries. Living paycheck to paycheck herself, she knew how it felt to struggle. As tears rolled down her face while walking out, she had no idea that the old man in the worn-out coat was watching from his car. 30 minutes later, everything was about to change. Hi everyone, welcome to Mystic Tales. Let's get started. Sarah had worked at Smart Mart convenience store for 3 years. The small store sat on the corner of Pine Street, serving the local community. Her morning shift started at 6 a.m. just as the sun began to rise. That morning felt different. The store was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerators. Sarah counted the cash in her register, preparing for another day of work. Her rent was due next week, and she needed every hour she could get. An elderly man walked in slowly through the automatic doors. His coat was clean but worn, his shoes scuffed from years of use. He picked up basic items, bread, milk, and some canned soup. Sarah noticed his hands trembling slightly as he approached her register. "Good morning," Sarah said with a gentle smile. The old man nodded, placing his items on the counter. The total came to $15.75. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small coin purse. His fingers moved slowly, counting pennies and nickels. Sarah saw the worry in his eyes as he counted again and again. I seem to be $5 short," he said quietly. "I'll put something back." His voice carried a mix of embarrassment and resignation. Sarah looked at the items. Basic necessities. She thought about her own struggles, the times she had to choose between meals. Without hesitation, she pressed some buttons on her register. "The bread and milk are on sale today," she said softly. "Your total is $10.75 now." The old man looked up, his eyes meeting hers. He understood what she had done. "Thank you, dear. You are very kind." Tom, her manager, had been watching from his office. The security cameras caught everything. He stormed out, his face red with anger. "What do you think you're doing? You can't just change prices," Tom yelled. "This is coming out of your paycheck." Sarah tried to explain. He needed help. It was just $5. "I don't care. This is theft. You're fired. Get out of my store right now." The old man stood silently, clutching his groceries. Sarah's hands shook as she gathered her purse from under the counter. 3 years of work, gone in an instant. The morning sun felt harsh as she walked to her car. Tears blurred her vision. Her mind raced with thoughts of bills, rent, and job applications. She had only $200 in her savings account. The old man walked to his car, parked a few spaces away. Sarah noticed it was an ordinary sedan, nothing fancy. He placed his groceries in the back seat, then sat in the driver's seat, watching as she got into her own car. Sarah rested her head on the steering wheel. The weight of what just happened pressed down on her shoulders. But she didn't regret helping him. Some things were more important than money. Sarah drove home to her small apartment, her mind racing with worry. She lived in a modest complex on the outskirts of town, where rent was more affordable. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate Lisa. "Why are you home so early?" Lisa asked. "I got fired," Sarah replied. "I'll tell you everything when you get home." Sarah sat at her kitchen table, opening her laptop to search for jobs. The local job listings showed mostly minimum wage positions. Her resume stared back at her from the screen. The doorbell rang. Sarah wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door to find a well-dressed woman holding a business card. "Hello, I'm Rachel from Wilson & Associates law firm. May I come in? I represent Mr. James Wilson." Sarah let her in, confused but curious. They sat at the kitchen table. "The elderly gentleman you helped this morning was James Wilson. He asked me to speak with you," Rachel said, placing a folder on the table. Sarah's eyes widened. "Is something wrong?" "Actually, quite the opposite. Mr. Wilson is the founder of Wilson Foundation. He was doing what he calls his monthly community check, visiting local stores to observe how employees treat struggling customers." Rachel opened the folder. He was impressed by your kindness. Not many people would risk their job to help a stranger. I didn't know who he was, I just wanted to help, Sarah said quietly. That's exactly why he was impressed. He would like to offer you a position at the Wilson Foundation's Community Outreach Program. The starting salary is $45,000 per year, with full benefits. Sarah sat in silence, processing the information. It wasn't an unrealistic amount, but it was more than she'd ever made. This is the job description and contract, Rachel continued, sliding some papers across the table. Mr. Wilson believes your empathy would be valuable in helping us identify and assist struggling community members. Sarah read through the documents carefully. The position involved coordinating with local businesses and organizations to create assistance programs for elderly and low-income residents. "Well, me?" Sarah asked. "Mr. Wilson has been looking for someone who understands struggle and shows genuine compassion. Your actions today prove both." The position was real, the salary reasonable, and the work aligned with her values. Sarah felt a mix of relief and gratitude. "When can I start?" she asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Monday, if you accept. Take the weekend to think it over," Rachel replied, standing up to leave. "Mr. Wilson also asked me to give you this." She handed Sarah an envelope containing $200, exactly what she'd lost in wages for the month. "Small acts of kindness matter, Sarah. We'll be in touch." Lisa came home that evening to find Sarah at the kitchen table, still processing the day's events. "Tell me everything," Lisa said, sitting down across from her. Sarah explained the morning's incident, the firing, and Rachel's visit. Lisa picked up the business card and job offer, examining them. "I looked up the Wilson Foundation online," Sarah said. "They're legitimate. They've been helping local communities for 15 years. This is amazing, Sarah, but why would Mr. Wilson go through all that trouble, pretending to be poor?" Rachel explained that they do these community checks regularly. They want to see how businesses really treat people, not just how they act when they know they're being watched. Sarah spent the weekend preparing for her new role. She bought a simple business casual outfit from the clearance rack at the local department store. Her savings could handle this small expense now. Monday morning arrived. Sarah drove to the Wilson Foundation office, a modest 3-story building downtown. The receptionist, Mary, greeted her warmly. "Mr. Wilson is waiting for you in the conference room," Mary said. Sarah entered to find Mr. Wilson wearing a proper business suit, quite different from his appearance at the store. He smiled warmly. "Welcome, Sarah. Please, have a seat," he said. "I want to apologize for my methods, but they help us find genuine people." "I understand," Sarah replied. "Though I still can't believe all this happened because of $5. "It wasn't about the money," Mr. Wilson said. "It was about your instinct to help, even at a personal cost. That's exactly what we need here." He showed Sarah around the office, introducing her to the small team of 10 people who ran various community programs. "Your first project will be creating a senior assistance program for local stores," Mr. Wilson explained. "We want to prevent situations like what happened to you." Sarah spent the rest of the day learning about the Foundation's current projects. They provided practical help, grocery assistance, home repair programs, and small business support. During lunch break, Sarah sat with her new co-worker Mike, who ran the small business program. "How long have you worked here?" Sarah asked. 3 years. Mr. Wilson found me working at a car repair shop. I had helped an elderly woman with free repairs when she couldn't afford them. Sarah smiled, understanding now. This was how Mr. Wilson built his team, finding people who showed kindness without expecting anything in return. That afternoon, Sarah started drafting her first proposal. She thought about that morning at Smart Mart, about others who might be counting pennies for basic needs. "We could partner with local stores," she suggested during the team meeting. "Create a dignity fund for seniors who need a little help." Mr. Wilson nodded approvingly. This was exactly why he had hired her. 2 weeks into her new job, Sarah's dignity fund proposal gained traction. She sat in a meeting with local store owners, including Tom from Smart Mart. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair when he saw her. The Wilson Foundation's involvement had caught his attention. The foundation will provide initial funding of $10,000 to each participating store, Sarah explained. This covers small purchases for seniors who need assistance. A store owner raised her hand. How do we verify who really needs help? We've developed a simple card system, Sarah responded. Seniors can apply through local community centers. Each card has a monthly limit of $50. Tom spoke up, his voice quieter than Sarah remembered. What about employee training? We need clear guidelines. We'll provide free training sessions. The goal is to help people maintain their dignity while getting the assistance they need. After the meeting, Tom approached Sarah. His face showed genuine regret. I was wrong that day, he said. I reacted without thinking. The store's profits were down, and I took it out on you. Sarah nodded. Sometimes we forget that small kindnesses matter. The foundation offered to buy SmartMart, Tom continued. Mr. Wilson says they'll keep me as manager if I agree to implement these community programs. That's what they do, Sarah replied. They don't just help individuals, they change how businesses work with the community. Back at the foundation office, Sarah reviewed applications from seniors seeking assistance cards. Each story reminded her of that morning at SmartMart. Mr. Wilson stopped by her desk. The store owners' meeting went well? Yes, 7 stores agreed to participate, including SmartMart. Good. We're not just helping seniors here, we're changing how businesses think about community service. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Saw the foundation's article in the local paper. You're doing amazing things. The article was small, just a few paragraphs about the new Dignity Fund program, but it represented real change. That evening, Sarah drove past SmartMart. The lights were still on, customers coming and going. Soon, it would be more than just a convenience store. It would be a place where kindness was part of the business model. She remembered the morning she was fired, the fear, the uncertainty. Now she understood that sometimes losing something led to finding a greater purpose. Mr. Wilson's method of finding employees might have seemed unusual, but it worked. He built a team of people who understood firsthand the importance of compassion in action. 1 month after launching the Dignity Fund program, Sarah sat in her office reviewing the first results. The numbers told a story of small but meaningful changes. Over 200 seniors have received assistance cards, she told Mr. Wilson during their weekly meeting. The average purchase is just $12. Small amounts can make a big difference, Mr. Wilson said. How is SmartMart doing with the program? Tom called yesterday. They've helped 43 seniors so far. He's become one of our most active participants. Sarah visited SmartMart that afternoon. The store looked different now, with a small sign near the register explaining the Dignity Fund program. Tom greeted her at the door. Remember Mrs. Chen? He asked. She comes in every Tuesday for groceries. Used to count pennies like, well, you know. Now she uses the Dignity card when she needs it. How are the employees handling it? Better than I ever did, Tom admitted. They understand it's not about losing money, it's about supporting our community. A young cashier named Amy approached them. That program you started, it helped my grandmother last week at Parker's Market. She didn't know about it until I told her. Sarah smiled. The program was creating exactly the kind of ripple effect they'd hoped for. Back at the foundation, Sarah worked on expanding the program. Other towns had expressed interest. It wasn't just about the money, it was about changing attitudes. We received a thank you letter, Mary said, bringing an envelope to Sarah's desk, from a senior who used the program at SmartMart. The letter was simple. Thank you for letting me keep my dignity while getting the help I need. I don't feel embarrassed anymore. That evening, Sarah met Lisa for dinner at their usual diner, the same one where they used to count coins to split a meal. I saw Mrs. Peterson today, Lisa said. She was telling everyone at the bus stop about the Dignity card, said it changed her life. It's strange, Sarah replied. Losing that job turned out to be the best thing that happened to me. Because you did the right thing, even when it was hard. Sarah thought about that morning, 1 month ago. The fear of being fired, the uncertainty of her future. Now, she helped create a program that turned moments of shame into moments of dignity. Mr. Wilson's foundation had bought SmartMart, but they didn't just change ownership, they changed its purpose. The store became a model for how businesses could support their communities while remaining profitable. "Your next project starts Monday," Mr. Wilson had told her earlier that day. "We're looking at helping small stores set up similar programs in the next town over." Sarah realized that her $5 act of kindness hadn't just changed her life. It had started a chain reaction that would help countless others. Not through grand gestures, but through small, dignified acts of helping those in need. Love this story? Tap that like button and subscribe to Mystic Tales for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments.